Serious people who have asked Reddit for advice and had it horribly backfire. What are your stories? So last year on Halloween morning I woke up to my boyfriend fingering me and trying to put his penis in without consent. Still believing I was asleep and making no attempt to wake me without ever asking if I was okay with that type of sleep touch. I was terrified, and when I finally tried to push him away he tried again and told me he knew I was ready. I finally got him to leave and posted to Reddit super confused and questioning whether it was assault and attempted rape, which it is. Reddit basically told me not to be such a prude, asked if I was a virgin before this, told me that they were fine being touched like that while asleep, not to ruin his life over such a stupid misunderstanding. There was maybe only 1 to 3 replies that mentioned that this was assault. It got posted to r/Reddit. I spent a year battling my emotions and confusion because of it and the way others around me acted about it, and ended up in outpatient mental health treatment after leaving law school because I couldn't mentally cope with life. General comment. I discovered right away that Reddit had to be used with caution. The few times I've asked for advice, I've spent more time having to suck up some guilt than actually receiving actionable answers. The most frequently received response I get to things like dating or relationship questions is what made you think this was a good idea in the first place? Or and you allowed this to happen, why? Utterly useless. Now, when I rarely ask for advice, I parse the words extremely well, so there's no room for people to derail the conversation into judgment. And yet it will still happen. I originally intended to use this account as a throwaway, so I can ask how I deal with having an asexual teenage past to somehow developing sexual urges in my 20s with no way how to deal with them properly. I got creepy PMS from several men who insist I sleep with them. I guess it did kill my urges a bit. I asked Reddit for a new TV show. I was told to watch Psyche, so I downloaded a bunch of seasons and good god, that show is one of the worst, most juvenile pieces of trash I've ever had the misfortune of wasting time on. I flush better writing every morning, and the acting is fucking terrible. Comedic timing is so bad it's remarkable when they get it right. Usually by mistake, I'm guessing. Anyway, I tried. Lasted maybe 2.5 seasons. Never ever take recommendations on things from Reddit. Redditors, sure, but never Reddit. It wasn't a horrible backfire because I didn't follow any advice given, but I asked for advice on my financial situation, mostly wanting to know if refinancing my car or doing some credit card balance transfers would help, or if there was anything I might be able to do in general to reduce my bills. I was met with everyone ignoring my original questions and telling me things like I should sell my car, I owe more than it's worth, so that won't help, I should get rid of my cell phone, I should get rid of the internet, I should stop putting money into my retirement account and cash it out instead to pay bills. No mention about the tax penalty. But what annoyed me the most, you need to find a new job and your husband needs to find a new job. Like we haven't both been trying to find better jobs for years. I was very tempted to reply, oh, get a job. Just get a job. Why don't I strap on my job helmet and squeeze down into a job cannon and fire off into jobland, where jobs grow on jobbies? I ended up just deleting the thread, since I wasn't getting any good advice. Someone said once that a good way to diffuse an expected static shock before touching a doorknob was to touch a piece of jewelry to the doorknob first, like a ring on your finger. The doorknob to the lunchroom at my office always shocks me, so one day I touched my wedding ring to the doorknob before my finger. I saw a blue flash of electricity and the shock went from my finger all the way up my arm. My arm was numb and tingly and painful the rest of the day. I've since learned that if I just rub the painted wall next to the doorknob first I don't get shocked. I wish I would have tried that first. I was in /r/fantasy I believe asking for book recommendations. Followed the guidelines of listing my read books and what I'm interested in. Somewhere in the comments I got into saying how reading Mark Lawrence was akin to having a brain full of cotton. Just felt off, and the writing was needlessly confusing. Made a comment about how there was one point with no warning where it skipped back into a flashback, no real gap to warn you, and I had to reread to see where it skipped. Author showed up in the thread. I felt bad, but goddamn, do I not enjoy that man's writing style. Great ideas, but there is like a mental block of me being able to become immersed in them. TL. Doctor, backfired and not so horribly backfired. My best friend has lied about very serious situations, so I took to this subreddit for guidance. The serious tag didn't exist 5 years ago and anything relationship related wasn't required to go into r/relationships. The comments were pretty sarcastic, and I considered it a waste of time. A few days later, I brought my laptop to said friend's house, since she was considering buying the same model. She asked to check her email and I went to use the bathroom. She must have saw the thread in my browser history, because when I came back she yelled, "What is this?" I replied, "Definitely not your email." Sorry to say, her having no idea what Reddit was worked to my advantage. I explained it away, that I had an assignment, and that article was a result of my search. The rest of the night was fine, yet the time thereafter didn't change her behavior, which influenced the thread. A while ago I asked some subreddit on how to make friends and meet new people. Since I've been trying to be more outgoing and cope with the fact all of my friends have been moving out of state, one redditor was being serious as to sign up for the armed forces. As he said he was a marine or something, but it's a good way to travel the world and meet new people. There are a dozen of other ways to do those things that don't require me to enlist. I of course did not take up his advice. I asked r/relationships about a girl I was seeing and posted a picture. They told me I should check a mole I had on my forehead, and then I spent 6 months going back and forth with doctors. It ended up being just a mole and now I have a horrible scar in my forehead. Maiden/r/relationships post about my family, asking for advice on how to deal with an unreliable parent. Got advice that seemed entirely disconnected to the situation I described. They want me to call CPS for my 16-year-old brother, meanwhile he's downstairs playing Overwatch, that our parents looked forward to buying him, cut off my family while I'm still financially dependent on them, and tell my father to go fuck himself when he's given so much to me. I asked for advice on how to handle a single conversation, not how to be an asshat and fuck over my family. I posted something about the accuracy of the wait times they post online in my area, because I wanted to check into the psych ward. I have a mental illness. I got such comments, as if you are writing this, you don't need to go to the and the is for those with real illnesses, and that my condition is just feelings. I guess it was my bad to trust Reddit, because it made what I was dealing with so much worse. But when I posted about my experience with the site on a mental health forum, I could not have gotten more support and stories of others who have been stigmatized and delegitimized on Reddit with assurance their community was there for me. So it's really a win/lose depending where you post. I posted on a throwaway that I was being threatened by the ex of my new girlfriend, and that now he wanted to fight me. I'd never been in a fight, and he was bigger than me, so I was looking for a way out of the situation, or an easy way to defend myself if a fight broke out. Someone told me to kick down on his kneecap, and that it would quickly take him out of the fight. Few days later he comes up to me, and shit is just about to hit the fan. I raise my leg to do what I was told, but I stopped, because I realized this could fuck his leg up for his entire life. After that, everybody thought I was gonna kick him in the balls. Was the butt of that joke for a while. Luckily, after I supposedly almost kicked him in the balls, he decided a potential kick to the dick wasn't worth it, and left me alone. Was known as Dick Kick Dave after that, and my name isn't even Dave. I asked a religious subreddit about my friend of said religion. He and I had met at group therapy for people with the same mental issues, but he was struggling with some sexual urges which contradicted with his religious learnings. I prefaced my post by saying I was an atheist female, so apologizing for being ignorant of their religion, and I hoped it was okay for me to post there as there was nothing saying otherwise in their sidebar. I was asking for quotes from their holy book to help me guide him, as Google was not helpful. In comments and PMS, I was told I had no right to be friends with him, told he was an abomination for speaking to me about this, told he was definitely going to burn in hell. I got a couple of people answering the question, but some of those were also vaguely hinting that he really shouldn't be talking to me. I got one PM saying sorry for the reaction from the community, she's a lurker, and here's some quotes, but I got some that were not so kind. It shook me up for a while. I always assumed if you were on Reddit you were aware of people of all religions, and none being on it too, but they'd best not venture into your realm. I was sad. In the end I wrote down the quotes and where to find them in his holy book and told him to see his religious leader at his local religious building. I asked for some relationship advice, who knows why, and then realized how stupid it was to ask Reddit for advice and immediately realized I was being dramatic. So I deleted the post. Holy crap, this guy took it super seriously. He started inboxing me about how he was so offended that he wasted his coffee break typing up a response to help me, and I was so out of line for deleting a post if I didn't like the advice that I should have made a throwaway etc etc. He didn't stop messaging me for a couple days about it. Just a complete nutcase. So I did what every person does to someone who takes Reddit too seriously. I just stopped responding. But, man, that was an obnoxious couple days. Go to /r/books. Here are the books you should read, according to that sub. Count of Monte Cristo, 1984. Infinite Jest, anything by Terry Pratchett and anything by Stephen King. Kurt Vonnegut 2, lately. What book changed your life? See above. What book would you take if you were on a desert island? Above. Name the 6 books you've read. Above. Reddit has lazy, hilariously juvenile reading habits that it likes to blow up into serious intellectualizing, but it's a total wasteland of freshman college favorites. More advice I didn't follow, but I had asked for help on /r/relationships and basically everyone said to stop being a doormat, break up with my boyfriend, go no contact, move out of our apartment, etc etc. People got really mean too, calling me all sorts of names for even asking for help in the first place. Well, I chose to ignore the advice and keep trying. 2 years later we are still together and really happy. Basically followed the opposite advice given. We are going to get married sometime in the future and have 2 kittens, which are better than children. I made a post in r/relationship advice a long time ago about my father, who had terminal cancer and believed he had a crazy get-rich-quick scheme that involved building a perpetual motion machine that could revolutionize how we make electricity forever. The machine was, to put bluntly, a joke. Anyone with some small idea of engineering could have told you it wouldn't work. He became obsessed with the idea though, to the point of him viciously fighting about it and lashing out to everyone, usually without provocation, like you don't believe it can work, when you're just sitting there eating some toast not even talking to him. The Reddit thread I posted got nothing but hatred and venomous responses about how I should respect his dying dream etc. I was labeled as a piece of shit, a bad son, etc. I deleted the thread because it upset me. My father actually beat his cancer and eventually gave up on the project. Before that happened though he pretty much wrote everyone in his life off as his enemies. He lives with his sister now and nobody really talks to him. Every now and then we exchange texts, but he usually doesn't respond. I still love him, but he takes disagreement so personally that he never gets over things like this. Ran into my ex, dated maybe a month, 4 or 5 years ago, at the mall and girlfriend heard about it and assumed the worst because her butthole friend said we were walking together and eating at the food court, even though we talked a minute or 2 and went our separate ways and did none of that stuff. Posted to ask how I could make her understand it was random, not planned, and that her friend was a liar. Probably not the best, because what could I really do anyway? But I was stressed and at my wit's end. All I got was some bitter females I assume asking how I just so happened to run into my ex and generally blaming me for my relationship troubles. That it was sketchy, that I'd even stop to say hi. Trust is dead these days apparently. I've worked in video for over a decade. I'd say 90% of the video production / editing advice / technical discussion I see on here is either false, outdated, or pulled completely out of thin air. So many people on this site like to speak authoritatively on a subject while having no working knowledge of it. They cobble together terrible advice they've seen from other clueless redditors and act like they are experts in AskReddit threads, furthering the cycle of misinformation. I'm sure it happens for most other career fields on here too. I joined a community and became one of their inner members. They essentially are a bunch of 30-year-olds who have no life, and I'm in my late teens. They sucked me in for a while, then it turned out that they all have the emotional maturity of 4-year-olds. I learned I need to grow up as well. They created a huge shitstorm to make me seem like some sociopath, then went back to their happy little bubble. They gave me tons of advice like to stay with an abusive ex and to never question authority, etc. I totally bought into it for the longest time. I dunno. It was maybe the best thing that could have happened to me because it gave me a bleak view of the path I was on. Now I have real friends and don't have to resort to backstabbing drama. Online relationships with strangers equals real relationships. I don't have the link to it because I used a throwaway, but I asked for advice on how to deal with my best friend being unsupportive of my relationship with my fiancé. It turned into a judgment of my fiancé, how he was lying to me about never being in a serious relationship before. Because he is 32, he was in the infantry in the army, deployed for 2 tours, and lived on a military base before that. And when he came home he didn't want to date because of depression and PTSD. Other theories thrown out. He was gay, they were cheating with each other, she lives 6,000 miles away from us, and he hates her, so pretty unlikely. I also got a ton of shit for us getting engaged too soon. We had been dating for 9 months, and how it was likely to end in divorce. Only one person gave actual advice on how to handle my best friend. You did it, Reddit/s. Not my story, but I read another AskReddit post about things you know about people that they don't know that you know. This one commenter said he found his friend's Reddit account. They play fantasy football together, and his friend frequently asked Reddit for advice, so he would tell the guy horrible advice and advise unfair trades in his own favor, etc. I found it pretty funny,